And I now give the floor to the representative of Greece.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to thank Assistant Secretary General Miroslav Jensa for his briefing, as well as Mr. Eli David for his powerful and moving testimony. And I express my deep sympathy for the suffering you, Mr. David, and other relatives of hostages have endured. I would also like to welcome the presence of His Excellency Mr. Gideon Sar, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Israel, to this meeting, as well as of the representatives of the Observer State of Palestine and Argentina. Mr. President, Greece reiterates its firm condemnation of the heinous terrorist attacks perpetrated by Hamas on October 7. The recently released images of hostages were yet another stark reminder of this continuing calamity. Today, we stand in solidarity with the victims and the families, and above all, with those who remain in captivity. Our thoughts are with every hostage still held in Gaza, with those who returned home traumatized, with those who perished in captivity, and those whose fate remains unknown. We once again demand their immediate, unconditional, safe, and dignified release. They must be released now. It is deeply troubling that these hostages have not been granted humanitarian access to address urgent medical and basic needs as required under international law, including international humanitarian and human rights law. Mr. President, in the months that have followed the appalling events of October 7, the members of the Security Council have been discussing and debating over the situation in the Middle East and specifically in the Gaza Strip as events unfolded and a disastrous humanitarian situation took hold of the entire Strip. The world has witnessed violence surging and people agonizing over the future of their loved ones. It has witnessed starvation and death. Unfortunately, as we continue to discuss the humanitarian situation in Gaza, a feeling of frustration, of a peace that remains elusive, is ever prevalent. We have repeatedly condemned the atrocities of October 7. We have made clear that Hamas has no place in the day after in Gaza. We have called for the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages. We have joined the calls of our fellow members of this Council for a ceasefire and for humanitarian aid to be delivered massively, immediately to Gaza. We have called on Israel to lift the blockade and spare the starving population. Mr. President, we cannot accept the suffering and humiliation of the hostages at the hands of Hamas and the anguish of their families. No one should. Nor can we turn a blind eye to the suffering of over 2 million Palestinians and their strive to survive. The toll is staggering: thousands dead or injured, countless displaced, and a population struggling daily for survival. In this regard, we call on all parties to show responsibility and opt for an agreement, as it is evident by now that this conflict has no military solution. The political process must be revitalized with the aim to create conditions conducive to achieving a two-state solution according to the relevant Security Council resolutions, while guaranteeing the right of Israel to exist in peace and security. As we have stressed before, there can be no day-after scenario for the Gaza Strip with Hamas. There can be no day-after scenario without the Palestinians in Gaza. Forced displacement of the population from the occupied Palestinian territories would amount to a grave violation of international law, would jeopardize the regional stability and security, and would undermine the prospect of a two-state solution, as would any other actions that run counter to this objective. Meanwhile, the humanitarian crisis on the ground demands immediate action. Millions are in urgent need of food, primary health services, education, and shelter. Border crossings must remain open. UNRWA's role should not be undermined. civilians and humanitarian workers must be protected in line with international humanitarian law. Mr. President, we cannot change the past, but we can certainly shape the future. The suffering of both sides must come to an end. Neither the hostages and their families nor the Palestinians can afford another day of this devastation. I thank you.
Agradezco.
I thank the representative of Greece for the statement.